Revelation chapter 12 verse 1 describes an awe-inspiring vision, a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. This is the first of 7 significant signs John reveals, symbolizing an important and ominous event. The woman can be interpreted in the child she bears is often seen as a symbol of Christ and his redemptive mission. The dragon, representing evil and commonly identified with Satan, stands in stark opposition to the woman and the child, highlighting the eternal battle between good and evil. Furthermore, chapters 12 to 14 of the Book of Revelation detail critical figures and events of the Great Tribulation, with this dramatic vision serving as an introduction. Throughout history, this image has been linked to various religious themes. Drawing from Joseph's dream in Genesis 37 verse 9, the sun might very well represent Jacob, the moon Rachel, or perhaps Jacob's 3 other wives, and the 11 stars symbolize Joseph's brothers. Additionally, the woman clothed with the sun may also be interpreted as Israel, or rather, as symbolizing Christ's church in a neo-sectarian sense. This connection is reinforced by other biblical passages where Israel, Zion, or Jerusalem are individually depicted as a woman. For example, Hosea chapter 2 verses 19 to 20 uses marital imagery to describe God's faithful and loving relationship with Israel. "I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you in righteousness and justice, in love and compassion. I will betroth you in faithfulness, and you will acknowledge the Lord." But a note of caution there. When Christ refers to Israel as his bride, it is barely metaphorical, and scholars could rightfully substitute Israel with the church. Apparently, the church as it is constituted encompasses all who accept Christ after the fact. We also know that the nation of Israel has always unapologetically rejected Christ as the Messiah. You could even say Israel, and the concept of it only represents a symbolic vehicle by way of Christ's church, through which he hopes to redeem the world and its many nations, that and the Abrahamic covenant in tow. So why is that distinction important? Well, suppose this woman in travail represents the church and not the backslidden nation of Israel as copiously documented throughout the Bible and in contemporary times. In that case, the man-child she bears is Christ, the Messiah, whom we should look forward to. Or perhaps that too is symbolic of something else. In Revelation 12:2, the woman begins to experience the pain and distress of childbirth. As the narrative unfolds, a fierce dragon appears, introducing a new level of conflict and challenge. This dragon, symbolizing evil or Satan himself, sets the stage for the ongoing struggle that defines the vision. This fiery red dragon has 7 heads, 10 horns, and a royal crown on each head. This image isn't of a literal dragon, but an allegory highlighting the dragon's nature and power. The dragon's 7 heads and 10 horns crowned with diadems symbolize its tyrannical authority and evil essence. The horns represent strength, while the crowns signify dominion. And this overall imagery portrays the dragon as a being of immense power and authority, embodying evil in its most terrifying form. In comparison, this female figure in Revelation 12 stands out from other women depicted in the book. For instance, Jezebel, associated with false religious teachings, is criticized in Revelation 2:20 for leading followers into immorality and idolatry. Another figure, described as the drunken harlot, represents religious idolatry in Revelation 17:2, seducing earthly kings and intoxicating people with her immorality. In contrast, the bride in Revelation 19:7-8 symbolizes the church, preparing for the Lamb's marriage in fine, clean linen, and she represents the righteous acts of the saints. Meanwhile, the dragon is on a warpath. Revelation 12:4 describes the dragon sweeping 1/3 of the stars from the sky and hurling them to the earth. This might be suggestive of Satan once convincing 1/3 part of the hosts of heaven to rebel alongside him. These fallen angels, if you like, were cast out of heaven at the beginning, hence the imagery. The dragon subsequently positions itself before the woman about to give birth, ready to devour her child. And if you were in doubt, verse 9 identifies the dragon as the ancient serpent, the devil or Satan, known for deceiving the whole world. Finally, the passage mentions the birth of a male child destined to rule all nations with strength and determination, subtly referring to Jesus Christ, the Messiah. His word, symbolized by a sharp sword from his mouth, will judge the nations. He will lead them with an iron rod and crush the winepress of God's furious wrath, executing judgment on a rebellious world. We can further extend that analogy to mean a system of rulership overseen by Christ himself. And might we suggest a more organized priesthood that is less fragmented than our many Christian denominations today? One such ambitious example comes to mind. The Mormons, for instance, claim to be close enough to that description. The first clue to bolster their claim lies in the original name of the Mormon Church. It spells out Jesus Christ, and dare say is structured as Christ himself would have it. This invariably implies that Christ has re-established his church in our time. Perhaps that singular omen counts for something, all things considered. On his part, Satan has always attempted to destroy Jesus and, by extension, his kingdom, beginning with Herod's massacre of infants in Bethlehem, as described in Matthew 2:16, 18. Herod, having been deceived by the Magi, ordered the killing of all boys in Bethlehem aged 2 and under. This act fulfilled Jeremiah's prophecy. A voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. But once this man-child is born, it is immediately caught up to God and his throne, indicating that the central figure is Jesus. Revelation 12:6-7 describes the woman finding refuge in the wilderness for 1,260 days, or 3.5 epochs, just as a celestial battle unfolds. Michael and his angels fight the dragon and his followers while the woman is protected in a sanctuary provided by God. This period, marked by suffering and persecution, suggests the faithful people of God will be spiritually preserved despite Satan's efforts. We'll also mention here that the Mormons just so happened to have been sorely persecuted early on in American history. It got so bad that they were forced to trek across treacherous territory to find safe haven. They eventually settled in the far western wilderness of Utah amongst Indian natives until civil rights improved over time. But this is merely a theory, and you can come to your own conclusions. However, with Satan's plan to destroy the Messiah thwarted, Revelations 12:13-17 now describes him turning his fury toward the woman. Cast down to earth, the dragon relentlessly pursues the woman who gave birth to the male child. However, the woman is given 2 wings of a great eagle, enabling her to escape to the wilderness, where she is nourished and protected from evil during trials. In a desperate attempt, the serpent spews water like a river to sweep her away, but the earth intervenes, absorbing the river and saving the woman. Frustrated by his failure, the dragon declares war on the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commandments and are faithful to their religion. In that regard, Satan is essentially known as the accuser and uses slander as his primary tactic against the devout. So John outlines a simple strategy to help the faithful resist Satan's attacks, being comprised of protection, confession, and courage. Keep in mind that Christ's triumph on the cross nullified Satan's power, proclaiming redemption and manifesting divine power. Revelation 12:10-12 further celebrates this victory, declaring that salvation, strength, and the authority of Christ have come because the accuser has been cast out. Believers can overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony while showing no fear, even in the face of death. To be sure, Satan's defeat was sealed by Christ's victory on the cross. Christ affirmed his dominion and extended salvation to all through his sacrifice and resurrection. Freed from Satan's accusations by the redemptive work of Christ, there is no more condemnation for those united with Jesus, as professed in Romans 8:1. The theme of the woman fleeing to safety is revisited and expanded upon with Christ's victory over Satan. The woman is given the 2 wings of a great eagle, symbolizing a providential escape to the wilderness where she will be safe for a time. Interestingly, the eagle imagery recalls the Israelites' liberation during the Exodus, as described in Exodus 19:4, where God carried them on eagle's wings to safety. Until this day, Satan relentlessly persecutes faithful followers of God despite his perennial failures. His fury only intensifies as he directs his hostility towards those believers who follow divine commandments and hold on to their testimony of Jesus, as illustrated in verse 17 of chapter 12. Chapter 13 further anticipates Satan's focus on the church, outlining his plans of opposition against those committed to God and Jesus. The same chapter reveals Satan's ongoing attempts to challenge divine authority. And there is a sense that the spiritual battle which extends throughout human history will finally reach its climax, signaling Christ's ultimate victory over evil. Suffice it to say, the book of Revelation not only portrays cosmic and earthly conflicts, but also brings hope and guidance to the faithful. The divine protection given to the symbolic church and its future government, as well as Satan's subsequent defeat, reaffirm God's promise of salvation and redemption. Revelations 12 is rich in symbolism and prophecy and encourages believers to remain resilient in faith, knowing that despite the ongoing struggle between good and evil, Christ's victory is assured. As believers, we must remember that Christ's crucifixion and resurrection are more than historical events. They are the cornerstone of Christian hope and transcend all earthly afflictions. The certainty of Satan's defeat and the eternal salvation of the righteous encourages constant commitment to Jesus' teachings. As we await the fulfillment of all things, let our hearts be filled with gratitude for the victory guaranteed in Christ Jesus, who serves as a sure and steady beacon in a world longing for redemption. May we remain vigilant and prepared with our lamps lit, anticipating our imminent redemption.